Hey everybody, this is a video about Gamma World 4th edition. It was made by TSR, it came out in 1992. So what's so good about this game? Why should you choose this game as a post-apocalyptic role-playing game for you? Well, it's still old school, so that's cool. It's got some good art. I don't think it's amazing art, but overall it's good. It's got Ascending Armor class, so it's a little bit more easier for some new players to get into, especially if they played more modern D&D. And it's got some great genotypes. So you can play as a pure strain human, you can play as an altered human, pretty much a mutant, and a mutated animal. And the last one is the sentient plant. So those are all, those mutant types have always been very popular with players. And one good thing about this 4th edition is that it's got classes. And so that's very easy for a lot of newer type modern players to get into. So let's take a look. This is Drive-Thru RPG, print-on-demand version. I got all the stuff they made for it, and they've done a good job. So you can see the cover there is quite vibrant. Some of the colored art that's inside is a little dark, and one of my beefs with some of the colored art is that they've used that same art throughout the first 3 editions, but nothing in this edition is represented in that art. It just doesn't really sync up. So that's unfortunate, but this cover here definitely does. You can see that this wolfman is being helped, probably by this pure strain human, as this flying turd is trying to attack them. And so, I'm going to probably shoot them left-handed, so, without really looking. So, maybe he'll get the shot off. I don't know. Maybe shoot him right in that eye. That would be cool. So, it was laid out in a more modern way back in the day, and compared to the first 3 editions. And I don't want to get a whole bunch into it, because you pretty much know what you're going to get into this. It's going to be gonzo. You're going to have altered humans with a bunch of mutations, mutated animals with a bunch of mutations. That's another thing too. So it's not just, hey, I'm going to play a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, but you're going to be a turtle with like wings or tentacles or some sort of mutant blast ability or some sort of death leech that just like sucks the life out of things around it. So it's going to be very gonzo in that sense. And then another thing is going to be, this is your list, by the way, of your stock animals. So gorilla, grasshopper, hawk, horse, otter. There's a bunch of good choices here, and you can always kind of take, if the animal's not here, you can always kind of take some of the abilities here and make your own. So you can play those kind of wild, and that's going to be very attractive to players to play one of these animals. So don't be like, wow, everybody's playing, a mutated animal. That's fine. That's what the game's about, is just kind of going wild. And these sentient plants are very cool as well. They're kind of alien in their head, not really like the other ones. And they also have a stock list of like brush, flower, fungi, succulent, tree, and vine. So again, to kind of make them a little bit different. It's got your kind of normal basic stats, except it does have the senses attribute, which I love. It's just all your character's senses, and you can roll off that. And how you pick your mutations, your different characters' careers here, real classes. And they're going to be kind of pretty staple here. You're going to have your Enforcer, which is your fighter. These are all the mutations, by the way. They get their own special skills per class. The Esper is going to be your kind of mental power class. And they're going to have abilities like hypnosis and identify mental power. Examiner is going to be all about the artifacts of the ancients, pretty much trying to figure out and fix stuff. The Scout's going to be all about your wilderness survival, hunting, navigating, tracking. Very useful class right there. One thing that's a little different is, since it does have Ascending Armor class, they call it THAC here, because they were still dealing with that THACO type situation. But there's also something called MHAC, or whatever, MHAC, which is Mental Hit Armor class. And then you have MD, which is Mental Defense. So, in essence, it's exactly the same as Armor class. That's what Mental Defense is. You're going to roll your mental, and of course that goes off your mental power, instead of like your dexterity or physical strength. It's exactly the same. So, mental combat's very easy. It's going to tell you how to level up. A whole section here on mutations. A lot of great mutations. Each one of the mutations have got just a really cool feel about them. And then some of them have this MP. So your mental power, your mutation power score is going to be pretty much like its own attribute. So you could have 2 players play maybe mutants that have this same ability, like kinetic absorption. But one of them rolled a little bit better, and so they're better at it. But the other player can put, when they level up, they can put some points into it to increase this mutation. So that's very neat. So think of each one of these that have this 46 minus L, meaning 46 drop lowest. Think about them as being its own attribute for each one of those mutations. So it goes on and on. I've just grabbed a good section there. Normal section on combat. So that's, you know, everything that you pretty much know. Health hazards are kind of like have an intensity, and they're going to be stuff like radiation or poison or disease. And you're going to have stage of effects so that you can actually, if you take a whole bunch of a poison and you roll poorly, like that could affect you way worse than someone who rolled pretty well. And the same with radiation, which has radiation rules in it as well. Because you're going to want to use that in this game. A whole section on here on how to use artifacts. This diagram helps you kind of weave your way through what an artifact might be. An artifact could be something as easy as a toaster, but your characters don't know what it is. Now, your player will, once you describe it. Through this diagram and make and use artifacts skill check rolls, you're going to kind of figure out what it is, or you're going to figure out that it's completely something that it's not. False function, assumed broken, you think, I can't do anything with that, I think it's broken. Or a dangerous event, meaning you think that it needs to be plugged up, but you also need to be in water when you're using it. So that's not great. That's a dangerous event. And that's where the examiner class comes in really handy. Stealth perception, how to do attribute checks, pretty much roll under your attribute. And then you have these difficulty where you're pretty much going to add that to your roll. So nearly impossible is going to add 15. So you're trying to roll under. Good luck with that. That's nearly impossible, obviously. And of course, cool art, but dark. Robot recognition. Robots only really deal with pure strain humans. They have a difficulty recognizing anything but them. How to deal with some of the new technology. The tech levels. I like tech level 1, which is pretty much like a primitive viable society where the players will have animal skins, furs, they'll have wooden spears or bows, clubs. But they want you to start off at tech level 3, and it goes all the way up to tech level 6, which is the tech level that's going to come to us in the future. And it has a cool little piece of art here to show you what the different tech levels are. And each of the equipment is going to be based off of certain tech levels. And you can see that here, how it lists tech levels. So if you say, hey, guys, we're only going to play in tech level 1 starting out, so they can only choose when they're getting stuff from tech level 1. And I like that. It makes it so that each of those new tech levels is kind of exciting to them as they get it. And then a whole section here on a bunch of futuristic gadgets and technocrud weapons. One thing that's not very great in it is the rate of fire. I wish that the rate of fire rules were more streamlined and more uniform. Some of them are actually in the description of how you do the rate of fire, in the description of each individual weapon. And that's just a little bit difficult. But clumsy, I guess I should say. There's a lot of equipment. Of course, you're going to have a lot of equipment stuff to blow up. Cool piece of art. Doesn't really work with what's in the book, but oh well. And then you're going to have a section on vehicles, a section on robots. Robots are very deadly. Some of them kind of gone haywire. They still have their old program maybe, and they think that like if they're made for like cutting grass, they might mistake you for that blade of grass. There's a whole section on Cryptic Alliances, pretty much factions that are vying for the new world here. They all have their own reasons for it and their own goals, and you can pit them against each other, have your players join certain ones of them, and they're very, very helpful in just kind of fleshing out the campaign of Gamma World. And then you're going to get into a section on the monsters and creatures. So a lot of good information. These are staples of Gamma World from the first 3 editions. And they make a return here. A lot of them are kind of gray area, like this Bloodbird. They're just going to try to kill you. So that's pretty easy. But some of these other creatures, they may have ulterior motives. They may be kind of more gray in alignment. You know, they're not always, it just doesn't say, hey, this guy's trying to eat you. Or they're always evil. So, you know, you're going to have to really kind of decide, much like you would with humans, you know, what their goal is. To just kill you and steal your stuff, or maybe they want to trade with you. Maybe they need information. Maybe they need your help. So some of them obviously are kind of militant turds, like these hoops over here, these rabbits. But there's some other ones that, like I said, I think it's going to be interesting. Mantas are just big praying mantises that are trying to kill you. But these guys look nasty, but they'll trade with you, maybe give information. So I think that's kind of interesting that they did that in the game. So a good selection. I'd like to have a little bit more, and I'd also like to have, one of my other beefs is, if you're going to make up a bunch of mutants to just fight against your players, you're going to have to roll up a bunch of, mutations, and it's going to be difficult to keep up with all those mutations on each individual combatant. So you may want to just give, a bunch of mutants a bunch of defect mutations, and then have them just be like, because they've got that, they can't really make it in the new world except for stealing from other people. So you'll need to kill them, obviously, because they're going to probably try to kill you. Section on campaign, the world as it is. or well, the world, I should say, America, which is of course, the remnants of America. And then a whole section here that's kind of filling out this map in the back. There's some NPCs that you can use for good guys or bad guys, index, but the map is back here, and this is going to be the setting that they highlight, and that's where a lot of this descriptive text here tells you what these places are about, is going to be in the Great Lakes area. Lake Mitchgloom, as it's called. A lot of things have different names now, remnants of the past, but they want to, kind of focus in on this area here, which of course is where a lot of their adventures and stuff are located. There's a character sheet in the back too. So that's Gamma World. That's Gamma World 4th edition. I think it's, if you want to say, hey, I played Gamma World, and an easy one to get into and feel like you're playing kind of an old school game from TSR, I think the 4th edition is the way to go. It's going to have those classes that you're probably used to. It's going to have that Ascending Armor class that you're used to. It's got a layout that's easier to deal with, that you're probably more accustomed to. It still has some faults here and there, but overall, and it just, they're just old school faults. But overall, I think it's a great edition. A lot of people really like this edition. Mainly, too, because they were probably playing Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, and this one just kind of really went along with it. Didn't have attack matrix tables and things like that. But check it out on Drive-Thru-RPG. If you want to try to get that stamp on your role-playing game passport, you say, hey, I've always wanted to play Gamma World. I'm going to get that stamp and say, boom, I've played Gamma World. I think this is an edition that you'll be happy with. It's not too expensive, but it's going to give you a whole bunch of game that you can play with. So that's Gamma World 4th edition. And I hope this video has been helpful for you. I hope to have new videos for you soon. And yeah, I'll have a link to to it if you want to go check it out on Drive-Thru-RPG down in the description. So there it is. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time.